Hey guys, tonight, we're re-stepping into your life as a Japanese geisha, from years of intense training and daily routines to the beauty, sacrifices, and hidden truths behind this misunderstood world. And we're not stopping there. We'll explore more fascinating cultural stories that reveal how people in the past truly lived. If you love calm history, untold stories, and immersive journeys through time, you're in the right place. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video. Really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more relaxing and eye-opening history. And comment below, what part of a geisha's life are you most curious about? Now, get comfortable, relax, and let's step quietly into a world of elegance, tradition, and forgotten stories. You were born into a world that already knows what it expects from you. This is Japan in the late Edo period, drifting slowly toward the Meiji era, a country that feels old and young at the same time. Old in its rules, its rituals, its deep respect for order. Young in the sense that change is coming, even if no one can fully see it yet. Steamships will arrive, factories will grow, Western clothes will appear in cities. But for now, life still moves at the speed of sandals on stone. You are a girl. That matters immediately. From the moment you are born, your future is narrower than your brother's. Not cruelly, not always intentionally, but firmly. Boys inherit names, land, trades. Girls are expected to support, marry, obey, or serve. Romance is not the goal. Survival is. Most families are not wealthy. Many are barely getting by. Rice is precious. Winters are hard. Illness is common. One bad season can ruin a household. Parents do not sit around dreaming about their children's happiness. They worry about food, debt, and keeping the family intact for one more year. In this world, duty comes before desire, always. Education for girls exists, but it is practical. You learn how to manage a home, how to behave properly, how not to bring shame. Art, beauty, and refinement are admired, but usually reserved for those who can afford them. For poor families, talent alone is not enough. You need opportunity, or sacrifice. That is where the okiya enters the story. The okiya is not advertised as a cruel place. It is described as a chance, a structured life, a roof that does not leak, meals that arrive on time, training in music, dance, poetry, and etiquette, things far beyond what your village could offer. Some parents truly believe they are giving their daughter a better future. Others know they are trading one burden for another. Sometimes, the decision is not framed as a choice at all. If there are too many mouths to feed, if a father dies, if debt grows quietly but steadily, a daughter becomes the most movable piece on the board. Sending you to an okiya means one less child to feed, and one possible source of income later. It is not heartless, it is arithmetic. You may be very young when this happens, too young to fully understand what is being decided on your behalf. You might hear adults whispering. You might notice your mother growing quiet. You might be told you are going somewhere special, somewhere important. No one uses the word forever. The world you were born into also believes deeply in hierarchy. Everyone has a place, and harmony comes from staying in it. Questioning your role is not rebellious, it's confusing. The idea of choosing your own path, of discovering who you want to be, is not common language. Identity is something you grow into through obligation, not self-discovery. This is why the geisha path exists at all. Geisha are not born from indulgence. They come from a society that values polish, restraint, and emotional control. A society that sees beauty not as decoration, but as evidence of discipline. If you can move gracefully, speak carefully, and read a room without being told, you are seen as refined. If you cannot, you are seen as unfinished. Art is not a hobby here. It is labor. Music is memorization. Dance is repetition until your feet ache. Poetry is knowing what not to say as much as what to say. Even silence is a skill, especially silence. As a girl, you are expected to absorb all of this quietly. Marriage is often the assumed future, but marriage itself is rarely romantic. It is another contract, another exchange of stability for obedience. Not all marriages are unhappy, but few are chosen freely. Love is allowed, but not prioritized. Love does not pay debts. So when an okiya appears as an option, it carries a strange promise. You will not belong to a husband. You will not work the fields. You will live in a city, wear silk, and learn arts that most people only glimpse during festivals. You will become something admired. Of course, admiration has conditions. What no one explains to you clearly is that entering this world means trading one kind of freedom for another. You may escape hunger, but you will inherit rules. You may escape anonymity, but you will live under constant observation. You will be trained to perform elegance while swallowing discomfort. Still, from the outside it looks beautiful. Lanterns glow along wooden streets. Shamisen music floats through evening air. Guests laugh softly behind sliding doors. The geisha world seems calm, polished, and protected from the harshness of ordinary life. That illusion is powerful. Even adults believe it sometimes. You grow up understanding one thing very clearly. Your life is not entirely your own. It belongs to your family, your house, your future obligations. You are raised to endure, to adjust, to not ask too many questions. If you are lucky, you are also taught pride. Pride in doing things well. Pride in holding yourself with care. Pride in contributing to something larger than your own feelings. This pride is what will later help you survive. Because the world you are born into does not prepare you for choice. It prepares you for responsibility. And so, when the day comes when your hair is bound differently, when your name is spoken for the last time in its childhood form, you step forward not because you want to, but because this is how life moves. Not loudly, not dramatically, but one quiet, obedient step at a time. The day you leave does not feel dramatic. There is no thunder, no long goodbye speech, no moment where everyone suddenly understands the weight of what is happening. Life, after all, still needs to continue. The rice still needs cooking. The floor still needs sweeping. Someone still needs to open the door and let the morning air in. That is how this world handles endings, quietly. You may wake earlier than usual, or maybe you are woken for the first time by someone who is not your mother. Your things are already gathered. There are not many of them. A few clothes, a comb, small objects that suddenly feel heavier than they should. Your mother does not cry openly. That would be improper. She may fuss over your sleeves, straighten your collar, remind you to bow correctly. These small gestures are safer than saying what cannot be undone. Your father might stand a little farther away than usual, close enough to watch, far enough to keep control. No one says, "You are never coming back." They say things like, "Be good," or "Listen carefully," or "Work hard." Practical advice for an irreversible moment. Love, translated into instruction. When it is time to go, you bow, deeply, properly, the way you have been taught. This bow matters. It is not just polite, it is final. You may not understand yet, but this is the last time you bow as this version of yourself. Outside, the world looks exactly the same. That is the strange part. The sky does not change. The street does not pause for you. Somewhere nearby, someone is arguing over prices. A dog barks. A neighbor passes without realizing that your entire life is being folded shut behind you. You walk, maybe you hold an adult's hand. Maybe you follow behind, careful not to fall out of step. Each footstep carries you farther from a place that already feels like memory. Even before you are gone, you are becoming someone else. At some point, your hair is changed. This is not done casually. Hair matters. It signals status, age, role. When your hair is bound differently for the first time, it is more than a hairstyle. It is an announcement. You are no longer just a child. You are now someone being shaped. It may hurt a little. The pull is tight. Strands are smoothed into place with care that feels strict rather than gentle. You are told to sit still. Stillness is important. Stillness is the beginning of control. You are given a new name. Not immediately, perhaps, but soon enough. Your childhood name becomes something you carry privately, like a secret you are not meant to share. Your new name belongs to the house you are entering. It fits their tradition, their lineage, their expectations. Names here are not expressions of identity. They are tools. You arrive at the from the outside, it looks calm, clean, orderly. Nothing about it announces that it will own you. Sliding doors, polished wood, a faint smell of incense. If you are very young, you might even feel relief. It looks safe, structured, predictable. That feeling will not last long. Inside, everything has rules. Where you step, how you sit, when you speak. Even how loudly you breathe feels noticeable. You are introduced, but not warmly. You are observed, assessed. Your posture, your eyes, your manners. You are not being judged as a person. You are being evaluated as potential. Someone will explain your place. Not harshly, not kindly, clearly. You now belong to this house. That does not mean you are unloved. It means love is no longer the currency that matters. Obligation is, debt is, loyalty is. You will be fed, clothed, trained. In return, you will work. For years, possibly decades, no one asks if you agree. Agreement is not required. That night, he sleeps somewhere unfamiliar. The floor feels different. The sounds are strange. You may hear the creak of wood, the distant laughter of older girls, the soft music drifting in from elsewhere in the district. You might cry quietly, or you might feel numb, which is sometimes easier. Homesickness does not arrive all at once. It comes in waves. It hits when you realize no one here knows how you like your rice, when you forget and call someone by the wrong title, when you reach for comfort and find rules instead. It hits hardest when you are tired. You are told not to dwell on the past. Dwelling is considered unproductive. You are encouraged to look forward, to focus on improvement. This is not cruelty. It is how this system survives. Sentiment slows things down. Over time, you learn that separation is not seen as tragedy here. It is seen as transformation. The person you were before is not expected to follow you. You are being emptied so something new can be placed inside. This is difficult for a child. You learn to keep your thoughts to yourself, to observe more than you speak, to adapt quickly. Praise comes when you do not cause trouble, when you do not cry, when you remember your place. Slowly, something inside you hardens not into bitterness, but into composure. You understand now that childhood is over. Not ceremonially, not officially, just practically. You will not be carried anymore. You will be directed. And yet, strangely, life does not feel unbearable. There is rhythm here, structure, a sense that if you do exactly what is asked, the world will remain stable. For a child in an uncertain society, stability can feel like kindness. You fall asleep knowing tomorrow will be the same, and the day after that, and the day after that. This predictability is intentional. It keeps you from looking back too often. By the time you realize that you are never going home, the idea of home has already begun to fade. Not because it was unimportant, but because memory is not encouraged here. Progress is, and so you let go. Not all at once, not bravely, but quietly, the way this world expects you to do everything. At first, the Okia feels like a puzzle you are afraid to touch. Every room has a purpose. Every hallway seems to suggest that you are walking incorrectly. The floor is too clean, the walls too quiet. Even the air feels organized. You learn quickly that this house does not respond well to improvisation. This is not a home in the way you once knew a home. It is closer to a small institution, or a very polite machine. The Okia is usually run by one woman, the Okisan, the house mother. She is not your mother, even if you are told to call her that. Her role is practical, not emotional. She manages money, schedules, lessons, reputations, and futures. If the Okia survives, she succeeds. If it fails, everyone fails with it. She notices everything, the way you walk, how fast you learn, how often you make mistakes. She does not need to raise her voice. Silence is usually enough. When she speaks, it is efficient, clear, hard to argue with. Arguing, in fact, is not really a thing you do here. The Okia runs on contracts. You may not see them at first, but you will feel them. Every meal you eat, every kimono you wear, every lesson you attend is recorded. Not on paper for you to read, but as debt you will one day repay. This is not presented as cruelty. It is explained as investment. The house invests in you. You will later return that investment. Until then, you belong to the house. There are other girls here, some older, some younger, some who arrived before you and already understand how things work. The hierarchy among them is strict and quietly enforced. Senior girls speak, junior girls listen, senior girls walk ahead, junior girls follow behind. Even how close you are allowed to stand is regulated. You learn your rank quickly, usually through correction. If you speak out of turn, someone clears their throat. If you sit incorrectly, someone adjusts you. If you forget a rule, you are reminded once, politely, forget again, and the reminder is less gentle. The house does not enjoy repeating itself. Privacy is limited. You sleep in shared spaces. You change clothes quickly and efficiently. Personal belongings are few. Nothing here is truly yours. Even your time belongs to someone else. Bells, schedules, and routines decide your day. You wake early, too early it feels like, before the city is fully awake, before your body wants to move. Mornings are for cleaning, sweeping floors that already look clean, wiping surfaces that do not appear dirty. This is not pointless. It trains your eye. It teaches attention. It reminds you that perfection is not a state, it is maintenance. Mistakes are not punished dramatically. They are noted. That can be worse. You begin to understand that the Okia does not run on fear. It runs on expectation. You are expected to improve, to adapt, to absorb instruction without complaint. Emotional displays are tolerated only if they are useful, and crying is rarely useful. The Okazan is not unkind, but she is not sentimental. She may praise you briefly if you do well. She may invest more in you if you show promise, but affection is not freely given. It is strategic. This confuses many girls at first. You want approval. You want reassurance. You want to know if you are doing well. The house responds with silence unless correction is needed. Over time, you learn that silence often means success. No comment is a good comment. Meals are eaten together, but not casually. There is a correct way to sit, to hold your bowl, to eat without sound. Conversation is limited. Food is fuel, not comfort. You eat enough to work. That is the goal. At night, you are tired in a way you did not know before. Not just physically, but mentally. Your body aches. Your mind replays the day's mistakes. Did you bow deeply enough? Did you walk too fast? Did you forget to lower your eyes at the right moment? You will forget. Often the house will remind you. Debt is explained carefully, but not emotionally. You are told how much your training costs, how long it may take to repay, how success shortens that time and failure extends it. You do not yet understand money, but you understand obligation. It hangs over everything. Freedom is not discussed. That word is not useful here. Some girls thrive in this environment. They like rules. They like knowing exactly what is expected. They like the clarity. Others struggle quietly. A few leave, unable to endure the pressure. Their departure is not discussed much. They simply stop appearing. Life continues. You learn that the Okia is not interested in your inner life. Your thoughts, your fears, your memories are your responsibility alone. What matters is behavior, output, improvement. This can feel cold, but there is also safety in it. The rules do not change based on mood. The expectations remain consistent. In a world where famine, illness, and loss are common, predictability is valuable. The house will not abandon you easily. It has invested too much. Slowly, you begin to adjust. You learn how to move through the house without being noticed, how to anticipate what needs to be done before being told, how to watch others and copy what works. Observation becomes your strongest skill. You also learn restraint, not reacting immediately, not expressing every feeling, letting things pass. This restraint will later be praised as elegance. For now, it is survival. There are moments of quiet humor, though no one announces them. An older girl rolling her eyes when the Okasan leaves the room. Someone whispering a comment just soft enough not to be heard. Small rebellions that feel enormous when everything else is controlled. You learn to enjoy these moments silently. Laughter, when it happens, is brief and careful. The Okia is not cruel by design. It is demanding by necessity. It exists to produce a very specific result. Women who can perform perfection under pressure. Women who can endure long hours, sharp scrutiny, and emotional restraint without visible strain. You are not there yet. Right now, you are just learning how to exist within its walls, how to belong without ownership, how to work without reward, how to be shaped without being asked. This house owns you, yes, but more importantly, it is teaching you how ownership works in this world, quietly, thoroughly, and it expects you to learn fast. This is where the real work begins. Before the art, before the silt, before anyone calls what you do beautiful, you become Shikomi, the lowest rank, the bottom of the ladder, the person everyone forgets to thank. If the Okia is a machine, Shikomi are the gears no one sees. Your days are no longer about potential. They are about usefulness. You wake before everyone else and sleep after most people are done. You clean floors that will be dirty again in minutes. You carry messages across the district. You fetch things that could have been fetched by someone else, but weren't, because you are here. At first it feels endless. You scrub, sweep, wash, fold, and run errands until the rhythm settles into your bones. There is a correct way to do everything. Sweep from this corner to that one. Fold the cloth exactly this many times. Walk quickly, but not too quickly. Move with purpose, but never urgency. Urgency looks sloppy. You are corrected constantly, not always harshly, often quietly. A look, a pause, someone redoing your work without a word. This is how you learn. If someone fixes your mistake, it means you made one. If no one fixes anything, it means you are improving. You learn to read silence like language. Shikomi are not expected to be talented yet. Talent is expensive. Talent comes later. What matters now is endurance. Can you keep going when you are tired? Can you listen when you are frustrated? Can you repeat the same task without complaint? Complaining is not forbidden. It is just useless. You quickly understand that effort is assumed. Only failure is visible. No one praises you for working hard, because working hard is the minimum requirement. Praise, when it comes, is small and rare. It feels strangely heavy when you receive it, like a reward you are not sure you earned. You also learn posture. Even while cleaning, your back should be straight. Even while kneeling, your movements should be controlled. The house does not separate labor from training. Everything you do is practice. How you carry a bucket matters. How you open a door matters. How you enter a room matters. Especially how you enter a room. You must learn timing, when to speak, when not to, when to wait, when to disappear. Shikomi are expected to be invisible until needed. Being noticed usually means you are in the way. This can feel lonely. The older girls are busy. The geisha are working. The okazan is managing things that do not involve you yet. You spend a lot of time alone with tasks and thoughts you are not encouraged to share. Homesickness returns here. It creeps in when your body hurts and no one asks why. When you are hungry but meals are measured. When you miss the feeling of being useful just for existing. At home, you are a child. Here, you are labor. You are not treated badly. You are treated efficiently. Punishment, when it happens, is rarely dramatic. You may be made to redo a task, or stand still longer than is comfortable, or lose a small privilege you barely noticed you had. The lesson is not pain, it is correction. Pain just happens along the way. Your feet ache. Your hands crack in winter. Your knees learn the texture of tatami very well. You discover muscles you did not know existed, mostly because they now hurt regularly. You are also tired in a deeper way. This tiredness is not solved by sleep. It comes from constant awareness, always watching, always adjusting, always trying not to make mistakes. Even your dreams begin to feel scheduled, and yet something changes. You begin to move without thinking. Tasks that once felt impossible become automatic. Your body adapts. Your mind quiets. You stop counting the hours and start counting progress. This is intentional. The Okia wants you to learn how to function without complaint, how to work even when you are bored, how to focus even when you are exhausted. These are not artistic skills, but they are essential ones. A geisha who cannot endure will not last. Sometimes, shikomi are allowed to observe lessons, not participate, just watch. You sit quietly at the edge of the room while music fills the space. You watch hands move across shamisen strings. You watch feet slide across the floor in patterns too complex to remember. This is dangerous. Not because it harms you, but because it gives you something to want. You imagine yourself there, standing properly, moving with purpose, being seen for something other than your ability to carry trays. This is how motivation is planted. Not through encouragement, but through distance. You are close enough to see the goal, far enough to know you have not earned it. Some girls quit during this phase. They leave quietly. No ceremony, no farewell speech. One day, they are there. The next day, their space is empty. The house adjusts. It always does. This teaches you another lesson. Nothing here depends on any single person. You are replaceable. Oddly, this can be freeing. If perfection is impossible, then improvement becomes the goal. You stop aiming to be flawless and start aiming to be better than yesterday. That is manageable. That is survivable. There are moments of humor, even now. You might trip while carrying something important and freeze, waiting for correction, only to realize no one saw. You might exchange a look with another shikomi that says, "Are we really doing this again?" Without saying a word. These moments feel like victories. Tiny, quiet victories. Endurance begins to matter more than talent, because talent shines briefly. Endurance lasts. The house knows this. The Oke-san watches who continues without being reminded, who listens the first time, who adapts without resentment. Those girls are remembered. By the time you are ready to move beyond shikomi, you are not the same person who arrived. You speak less, you move more carefully. You think before reacting. Your body knows how to obey without panic. You have learned how to exist inside a system without fighting it openly. This is not submission. It is strategy. The arts will come later. The beauty will come later. Right now, you are learning something far more important. How to hold yourself together when no one is watching. That is the foundation everything else will be built on. And whether you realize it or not, you are surviving. Quietly. exactly as intended. One day, without announcement, your routine changes. Not dramatically, no ceremony, no one gathers to congratulate you. You are simply told to wash your hands, sit properly, and watch carefully. This is how advancement happens here. Quietly, as if it were inevitable. You are being allowed to learn. At first, the lessons feel unreal. After months of scrubbing floors and running errands, sitting still feels almost indulgent. Your body expects interruption. Your mind waits for correction. Instead, music begins. The shamisen sounds sharper up close than it does drifting through walls. The strings snap and hum at the same time. It is not soothing in the way you imagined. It demands attention. Your teacher's hands move with precision, fingers hardened by years of repetition. There is no wasted motion, no flourish. You are not handed an instrument yet. You watch. Watching is a skill here. You learn the names of notes before you touch them. You memorize patterns without sound. When you finally do place your fingers on the strings, they hurt almost immediately. You are told this is normal. You are told not to react. Pain, like beauty, is something to manage quietly. Dance lessons are worse, or better. It depends on the day. Dance is not about expression. Not here. It is about control. Every movement is deliberate. Your wrist turns at a specific angle. Your foot slides, never lifts. Your eyes look forward, then lower, then still. You are corrected constantly. Your teacher taps your arm into place, adjusts your shoulders, tells you to soften something that feels anything but soft. You discover that elegance is exhausting. Holding yourself correctly requires muscles you have never trained. Your back burns, your legs tremble. Sweat gathers in places you are not supposed to acknowledge. You are reminded to breathe quietly. Loud breathing breaks the illusion. You learn songs next. Traditional pieces passed down for generations. You are expected to memorize lyrics you do not fully understand. The words reference seasons, emotions, moments frozen in time. Cherry blossoms falling, autumn wind, waiting for someone who may never return. No one explains the meaning in detail. Understanding is assumed to come later. Tea ceremony is slower, almost painfully so. Every motion has a reason. Every pause is intentional. You learn how to turn the cup, how to bow at the correct depth, how to place objects as if they have always belonged exactly there. It is not about tea. It is about awareness. If your mind wanders, you will forget a step. If you rush, you will reveal yourself. Tea ceremony teaches you how to exist entirely in the present moment. This is useful later, when guests say foolish things, and you must respond gracefully without thinking too much. Calligraphy arrives quietly. You sit with brush and ink, learning how to apply pressure without forcing it. To light, and the stroke disappears. Too heavy and it looks aggressive. You learn that beauty lives in balance, that effort should be visible, but never obvious. Your characters look clumsy at first. You are told this is expected. You practice anyway. Walking becomes a lesson of its own. You relearn how to move through space. Short steps, controlled pace, weight distributed carefully. You practice walking while wearing practice kimono, learning how fabric changes your balance. Later, this will be instinct. For now, it feels like learning to walk all over again. Sitting too is corrected. Knees together, back straight, hands placed gently. You learn how to sit without fidgeting, without adjusting, without revealing discomfort. Stillness is a performance. Speech is addressed carefully. You are not taught to speak more. You are taught to speak better, softer, slower, with intention. You learn polite forms, seasonal references, and how to respond without saying too much. A good response leaves space. A bad response fills it awkwardly. You practice smiling, not broadly, not constantly, just enough. You learn that a smile can be a punctuation mark, not a declaration. You also learn when not to smile. This is important. Beauty, you realize, is not about being noticed. It is about being remembered correctly. These lessons are not taught as self-expression. No one asks how the music makes you feel. No one asks what kind of dancer you want to be. Those questions are not relevant yet. Maybe not ever. Beauty here is discipline. It is repetition until your body responds without hesitation. It is learning the correct form so thoroughly that it looks effortless. It is hiding strain behind smooth movement, hiding effort behind grace. You begin to understand why shikomi training mattered so much. Endurance makes these lessons possible. A girl who cannot stand discomfort cannot hold elegance. A girl who reacts emotionally cannot maintain composure. Talent helps, but discipline decides everything. Some days, you feel progress. A note sounds cleaner. A movement feels smoother. Your teacher nods once. That nod stays with you for hours. Other days, nothing works. Your fingers slip. Your posture collapses. Your mind wanders. You are corrected again and again until frustration builds behind your ribs. You learn to swallow it. Frustration shows, and showing is discouraged. There are small moments of humor though. You might forget a step and freeze, completely still, hoping no one notices. You might hear another girl sigh quietly in the exact same way you feel. Someone might make a mistake so obvious that even the teacher pauses, then continues without comment. These moments remind you that no one here is perfect. They are just practiced. Slowly, the arts stop feeling separate from you. Your body remembers movements before your mind does. Your fingers find positions without instruction. You begin to anticipate corrections before they happen. This is progress. This is how the house knows you are ready for more. Beauty, you learn, is not something you possess. It is something you maintain. It requires attention every day. It fades if neglected. It sharpens if respected. It demands humility. The moment you believe you've mastered something is usually the moment you are corrected most sharply. This can be discouraging. It can also be grounding. You stop chasing praise and start chasing precision. You stop worrying about how you look and start focusing on how correctly you move. This shift changes everything. The work becomes quieter, more internal. By the end of this stage, you are no longer just a worker. You are a student, not yet a performer, not yet visible, but you are being shaped for something specific, something delicate, something demanding, something that will require you to carry beauty without letting it crush you. And for the first time, you begin to understand that beauty here is not meant to make you feel special. It is meant to make you reliable. Reliable in grace, reliable in restraint, reliable in silence. The lessons continue, and so do you. At some point, your body stops being just yours. Not suddenly, not aggressively, just gradually, like a door closing so slowly you do not notice until the room feels different. This is the stage where appearance stops being personal and becomes professional. It begins with your hair. Traditional hairstyles are not designed for comfort. They are designed for meaning, age, rank, occasion, season. Your hair is washed, combed, oiled, and shaped into forms that take hours to complete and even longer to maintain. Once it is done, you are told not to disturb it. This includes sleeping. You are given a special wooden pillow. Calling it a pillow is generous. It supports your neck, not your head. The goal is simple. Do not move at all. Rolling over means ruining hours of work and inviting correction in the morning. The first few nights are miserable. Your neck aches, your muscles tense. You wake up panicked, convinced you have shifted. Sometimes you have shifted, sometimes you have not. Either way, you learn to lie very still. Stillness becomes a skill, like everything else here. Eventually, your body adapts. It always does. Then comes the white face paint. This is not makeup in the modern sense. It is a transformation. Your natural skin is covered carefully, evenly, deliberately. The white is not meant to erase you. It is meant to create a surface on which expression can be read clearly in low light, candlelight, lantern light, the soft glow of evening rooms. There is symbolism here, though no one lectures you about it. The white face reflects light. It creates distance. It turns you slightly unreal. Guests are meant to see the art first, not the person underneath. The paint feels heavy at first. It dries, it cracks. If you move your face too much, you learn to smile differently, to laugh quietly, to control your expressions so they do not break the illusion. Your lips are painted next. Red, precise, restrained. Not full coverage at first, just enough. This too changes as you advance. Everything changes slowly, on purpose. You learn how to remove the makeup carefully at night. Too rough, and you damage your skin. Too careless, and residue remains. Your skin becomes something you maintain like an instrument, clean, protected, preserved. Kimono training begins to matter more now. Kimono are not clothes, they are systems, layers upon layers, each with its own purpose and rule. The way they are folded, the way they are tied, the way they move when you walk. All of it is intentional. You learn seasonal patterns, light colors for spring, deeper tones for autumn. Certain designs are not allowed at certain times. Wearing the wrong motif is not a small mistake. It signals ignorance. Putting on a kimono is physical work. The fabric is heavy. The obi is tight. Your breathing changes once it is secured. You learn to take smaller breaths, deeper ones, controlled ones. At first, you feel trapped. Later, you feel held. The restriction forces posture, forces grace, forces awareness of every movement. You cannot slouch in a kimono. You cannot rush. If you try, the garment will remind you immediately. Walking becomes slower. Sitting becomes deliberate. Even turning around requires thought. The kimono trains you whether you want it to or not. There is discomfort, plenty of it. The weight, the tightness, the heat in summer, the cold in winter. You learn to endure all of it without visible reaction. Visible discomfort breaks the image, and the image matters. This is where bodily control becomes non-negotiable. You learn to ignore itching, to manage pain without wincing, to adjust internally rather than externally. If something hurts, you breathe through it. If something pinches, you shift your weight slightly and continue. Complaining is pointless. Everyone knows it is uncomfortable. That is not new information. What is new is how quickly you begin to accept it. You start to understand that the image you are creating is not meant to reflect comfort. It is meant to reflect composure. Guests are not there to see effort. They are there to see ease. Even when ease is carefully constructed, there is a strange moment, usually unexpected, when you catch your reflection, not casually, not often, but one day you pass a polished surface or a mirror and pause. The person looking back does not quite feel like you. The hair, the face, the layers of silk, the posture, you recognize yourself, but distantly, like seeing someone you know very well in a role you did not expect. This can be unsettling. It can also be empowering. The image works. You can see that it works. The discipline shows. The transformation is real. You begin to understand why this life exists at all, why so much effort is poured into something so precise. Of course, there are moments of quiet humor, like realizing you cannot scratch your nose once everything is set, or learning the hard way that sneezing while wearing white face paint is an adventure. You learn to suppress it. Mostly, you might misjudge the weight of your sleeves and knock something over. You learn quickly to be aware of where your fabric ends. Spatial awareness becomes survival. Mistakes happen. They always do. The difference now is that mistakes are more visible. A smudge, a loose tie, a strand out of place. You are corrected gently, but firmly. Presentation matters. By now, your body belongs partly to the house, partly to the art. This is not framed as loss. It is framed as purpose. You are becoming a visual language. People will read you before you speak. Your appearance sets expectations. It calms rooms. It signals tradition. You begin to move differently, even when you are not being watched. Your back straightens automatically. Your steps shorten. Your hands settle naturally into place. The training does not turn off. It becomes default. This is when the image truly takes hold. You are no longer pretending to be composed. You are composed because that is how your body has learned to exist. The discomfort does not disappear, but it becomes background noise, like distant traffic, present but manageable. There is a cost to this. Your body is no longer a private space. It is adjusted, assessed, corrected. Your appearance is discussed openly. Your weight, your posture, your skin, not cruelly, but clinically. Improvement is always possible. This can wear on you, but it also sharpens you. You learn not to take correction personally. You learn to separate yourself from the image while maintaining it perfectly. This balance is delicate, and not everyone manages it. Those who do last longer. By the end of this stage, you understand something important. The image is not a lie. It is a tool, a carefully built surface that allows people to see beauty without demanding access to what lies beneath. It protects you even as it exposes you. It creates distance. That distance can be safety. Hair, skin, and silk are not decoration here. They are armor, quiet armor, elegant armor. And once you learn how to wear it, you are finally ready to be seen. There is a day when you stop blending into the background. You do not wake up different. Your body feels the same. Your nerves, if anything, feel worse. But the way people look at you has shifted. You are no longer just someone being trained. You are now someone being presented. This is the transition to Meiko. The ceremony is called Misadashi, and it is both a beginning and a warning. A beginning because you are finally stepping into public view. A warning because from this moment on, mistakes are no longer private. Your debut is prepared carefully. The occasion oversees everything. Your kimono is chosen with intention, bright, youthful, unmistakably eye-catching. Long sleeves that trail when you move. Colors that announce freshness and potential. You are meant to look young, vibrant, and slightly unreal. Your hair is more elaborate now. decorated with seasonal ornaments that signal where you are in time. Flowers for spring, subtle shifts for other months. These details matter. People notice them. They will comment if something is wrong. The collar of your kimono is red. This is important. It marks you as an apprentice, not yet fully refined, still learning, still protected, in a way. The red is symbolic, but it is also practical. It reminds others to be patient with you, to forgive small mistakes. You will still be corrected for them, though. On the day of your debut, you walk through the streets of the Hanamachi, slowly, carefully, accompanied by senior women. You bow at the correct places. You greet tea houses and shop owners who already know your name. They have known it before you did. This walk is not for you. It is for the community. It tells everyone that the Okya has invested in you, that you are now part of the working world of the arts, that you are available to be seen, assessed, discussed. It is overwhelming. People stare openly. Some smile, some evaluate, some whisper. You are very aware of your sleeves, your steps, your breathing. You are painfully aware of your face. You try not to think about how much white paint you are wearing or whether your smile looks natural. You are told to look calm. Inside, you are anything but. From this point on, you are assigned an older geisha as your mentor. She is your onasan, your older sister in everything but blood. You follow her closely. You observe how she enters rooms, how she speaks, how she laughs. You copy her patterns, her pacing, her pauses. She is not warm, not cold. She is professional. Your success reflects on her. Your mistakes do too. You accompany her 2 lessons, 2 events, 2 tea houses. You do not lead conversations yet. You listen. You pour drinks. You laugh at the right moments. You learn how to read a room not by speaking, but by watching how she navigates it. This is harder than it sounds. Rooms change quickly. One guest wants attention. Another wants space. One wants to talk. Another wants to be impressed quietly. You learn to sense this without being told. When you misjudge, you are corrected later, privately, if you are lucky. Being a Mako means being watched constantly, by guests, by other geisha, by the occasion, by yourself. You begin to monitor your own behavior in a way that feels exhausting at first. How loud was that laugh? Was that bow too shallow? Did you speak too soon? There is no off switch. Your youth is part of your role. You are allowed to be a little awkward, a little bright, a little enthusiastic. This is expected, but there is a narrow line between charming and careless. Crossing it too often draws attention, and attention is not always kind. The kimono you wear now are heavy, heavier than before. The sleeves are long and dramatic. They pull at your shoulders. They require awareness at all times. You learn to turn differently, to sit without trapping fabric, to stand without tangling yourself. It is impressive. It is also exhausting. Your days are full. Lessons in the morning, preparation in the afternoon, tea houses at night. You sleep late and wake early. Your body aches in new places. Your feet develop a special kind of pain reserved for wooden sandals and long hours. You smile anyway. Guests often ask questions, polite ones, curious ones, some foolish ones. You learn how to respond without embarrassment, how to deflect gently, how to laugh without encouraging too much familiarity. This is where charm becomes labor. You are not flirting, you are hosting. You are creating an atmosphere where others feel interesting, respected, and entertained. This requires energy, emotional energy. You learn how to give just enough without giving yourself away. This balance is delicate. You will make mistakes. Everyone does. You might speak too quickly. You might misread a joke. You might forget a name. These moments feel enormous to you. To others, they are minor. The important thing is how you recover. A graceful recovery matters more than perfection. Over time, you gain confidence, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that comes from repetition. You begin to trust your training. Your body knows what to do. Your voice steadies. Your movements smooth out. People start to remember you. They mention you by name. They comment on your dancing. They notice your seasonal ornaments. This is both exciting and dangerous. Attention brings opportunity. It also brings comparison. Other Mako are working just as hard. Rivalries form quietly, not openly. Open conflict is unacceptable. Instead, tension lives in silence, in glances, in competition for approval. You are encouraged not to notice. Of course, you notice anyway. There are moments of humor, even now, like realizing halfway through a long evening that your feet went numb an hour ago, or smiling politely while someone explains something to you that is completely wrong. or trying very hard not to sneeze during a serious performance. You learn to smile through it all. Being a Mako is a strange mixture of protection and exposure. You are still learning, still guided, still corrected, but you are also visible, public, discussed. Your reputation begins forming whether you like it or not. This is the stage where many girls decide whether they truly belong here. Some thrive on the attention, some tolerate it, some endure it because there is no other path. All of them learn quickly that this life is not about being admired, it is about being consistent, consistently graceful, consistently composed, consistently present. By the time the novelty fades and the work becomes routine, you understand something important. Being a Mako is not about becoming someone else. It is about refining yourself until the edges disappear, until what remains is smooth enough to hold under scrutiny. And once you can do that, once you can stand in the light without flinching, you are ready for what comes next. Because being seen is only the beginning. Staying is the harder part. This is where the work becomes visible. Tea houses look calm from the outside. Soft light, sliding doors, laughter that never gets too loud. From the street, it feels like nothing important is happening. That is part of the design. Inside, everything matters. These evenings are called ozashiki. They are not parties in the modern sense. They are carefully managed social spaces. Guests arrive expecting comfort, conversation, and a sense of ease they do not always have in their daily lives. Your job is to help create that feeling without ever making it obvious that you are working. As a Mako, you arrive early. You kneel properly. You bow deeply. You greet everyone in the correct order. Rank matters. Age matters. Familiarity matters. Getting this wrong is awkward for everyone, so you learn quickly. Conversation here is not casual. It is an art. You are not there to talk about yourself. You are there to draw others out, to listen with attention, to respond in ways that make people feel interesting, respected, and relaxed. You learn how to ask questions that invite stories, how to nod at the right moments, how to laugh softly without interrupting. This is harder than dancing. People talk about business, politics, art, their own importance. Some talk too much, some talk too little. Some want admiration, some want distraction, some want silence but do not know how to ask for it. You learn to read these needs quickly. If someone wants attention, you give it briefly, then redirect. If someone wants space, you sit slightly back. If someone is uncomfortable, you shift the energy gently. None of this is discussed openly. You are expected to sense it. This is emotional labor, even if no one uses that phrase. You pour drinks carefully, never too much, never too little. You watch cups more than faces. An empty cup means opportunity. A full cup means pause. You learn how to refill without interrupting conversation. Games are sometimes played, traditional ones, simple but social. They encourage laughter and light competition. You participate enough to keep things lively, but not enough to dominate. Winning too often is impolite. Losing too obviously is embarrassing. Balance is everything. Music and dance happen in these rooms too. When it is time, you perform. Your movements feel smaller here than in lessons, but more intense. Every gesture is seen up close. Every mistake is noticed, even if no one mentions it. You focus on precision. The shamisen sounds different in a small room. The air vibrates. You feel the eyes on you. You do not look back directly. That would break the illusion. You keep your gaze soft, present, but not demanding. When the performance ends, there is polite applause, quiet praise, nothing exaggerated. Excessive reaction would feel inappropriate. You bow and return to your place as if nothing important just happened. Inside, your heart is racing. After a while, you stop noticing how long the evenings are. Time stretches in a strange way. Hours pass, but the rhythm stays steady. Talk, pour, listen, smile, perform, repeat. Your body learns this rhythm. Your feet hurt, your knees ache, your back tightens. You adjust internally and continue. Showing discomfort would disrupt the atmosphere. The guests are not here to think about your body. They are here to forget theirs. This is an important distinction. There is a common misunderstanding that these evenings are flirtatious or suggestive. They are not meant to be. Charm is present, yes. Warmth, yes. But intimacy is controlled. Boundaries are clear, even if outsiders fail to see them. You are not selling desire. You are selling ease. That ease is carefully constructed. You laugh at jokes that are not very funny. You express interest in stories you have heard before. You respond politely to comments that could have been phrased better. You do all of this without making anyone feel corrected. This takes practice. Some guests test boundaries, not aggressively usually, more like curiosity. How far can they lean into familiarity? How much attention can they claim? You learn how to redirect gently. A change of subject, a small joke, a shift in seating. Your mentor watches these moments closely. Correction comes later, quietly. You lingered too long there. You could have stepped back. Sooner your smile was fine, but your eyes were distracted. These comments stay with you. You replay the moments in your mind. You get better. There are evenings that go smoothly. Guests are kind. Conversation flows. Laughter feels natural. These nights are almost enjoyable. Almost. There are other evenings that drag. Someone drinks too much. Someone repeats the same story. Someone complains. You maintain composure. You respond with patience. You remind yourself that this is part of the job. There is humor here too, if you know where to look. Like listening to someone explain art to you very confidently while being completely wrong, or being praised for your natural talent after years of exhausting training, or watching guests argue over rules of a game you have played since childhood. You smile, you nod, you survive. As a Mako, you are rarely alone in these rooms. Senior geisha lead the evening. You support, you learn by watching how they manage difficult personalities, how they redirect conversation with grace, how they end an evening without anyone feeling dismissed. Ending an evening is also an art. You bow, you thank guests sincerely, even if you are exhausted. You express hope to see them again. You do not rush. Rushing implies impatience. Even when it is late, even when your body begs for rest, you maintain pace. When you finally leave, the night air feels different, cooler, quieter. The streets are mostly empty now. Lanterns flicker. The shamisen sound fades behind closed doors. You walk carefully, still aware of your posture, but a little less watched. Back at the okia, makeup is removed. Kimono are folded. Hair is checked. The transformation reverses slowly. You feel lighter, tired in a deep, satisfying way. These nights shape your reputation. People remember how they felt in your presence. Not what you said, not what you wore. How they felt. Calm, entertained, respected. This is your real product. It takes time to understand this fully. Early on, you worry about saying the right things. Later, you focus on creating the right atmosphere. This shift changes everything. The work becomes quieter, more intuitive. You stop thinking of yourself as a performer and start thinking of yourself as a host, a very well-trained host. By the end of this stage, you realize that the tea house is where all your training comes together. Discipline, beauty, restraint, awareness, endurance. It all lives here. The arts bring people in, but it is your presence that makes them return. And that, more than anything else, is why these nights matter. This is the chapter people usually get wrong. From the outside, it looks simple. Men with money, women in silk, soft laughter, long evenings. People assume they know what is happening. They rarely do. Inside the geisha world, relationships with men are defined carefully, even when they appear ambiguous. Especially then. Most men you meet are guests, regulars at tea houses, businessmen, artists, politicians, merchants. They come to relax, to talk, to be entertained in a space that feels removed from obligation. They are not there to own you. They are there to be hosted. You learn quickly that attention is currency. A guest who feels valued returns. A guest who feels ignored does not. But giving attention does not mean giving yourself. It means listening, remembering details, responding thoughtfully. You might recall a story they told months ago. You might ask about something important to them. These gestures feel personal, but they are professional. That line is important. Some relationships go deeper, but always within structure. This is where the concept of a dana appears. A patron, not a lover in the casual sense. A supporter, a man who provides financial backing to a geisha, often covering expensive costs like kimono, lessons, or living expenses. This arrangement is not automatic, it is not required, and it is not romantic in the way people imagine. A dana relationship is negotiated carefully. It is based on reputation, trust, and mutual benefit. For the geisha, it offers financial stability and reduced pressure. For the patron, it offers exclusivity of support and association with refinement. Power exists here, but it is not one-sided. A geisha is not passive in this arrangement. She chooses carefully. A bad patron damages reputation. A demanding one drains energy. A controlling one threatens independence. Saying yes to the wrong person can be worse than saying no to everyone. Reputation is everything. If word spreads that you are difficult, careless, or indiscreet, opportunities shrink quickly. If you are seen as graceful, reliable, and discreet, doors open. This is not just about skill, it is about trust. Trust is hard to build and easy to lose. You are taught to guard your words, to never repeat private conversations, to never embarrass a guest, even indirectly. What happens in the tea house stays there. This silence is not secrecy, it is professionalism. Men sometimes test this. They ask personal questions, they hint, they probe for vulnerability. Some do it without realizing, others do it deliberately. You learn how to respond politely without revealing anything useful. A gentle laugh, a redirection, a seasonal comment. You become very good at answering without answering. There is also pressure you do not see at first. Men with power are used to being accommodated, used to being listened to, used to being important. In the tea house, they expect the same. You provide that feeling, but within limits. Learning where those limits are and how to enforce them without confrontation is one of the hardest skills you develop. Open refusal is rare. Instead, you learn the art of graceful avoidance. You change the subject. You involve someone else. You excuse yourself at exactly the right moment. You smile just enough to soften the boundary. Most guests accept this. Some do not notice it happening at all. This is not manipulation. It is navigation. There are moments when power dynamics feel heavier, when a guest's status makes others defer, when the room adjusts subtly around him. You feel the weight of expectation. You feel watched. In those moments, your training matters. You remain composed. You follow protocol. You do not let pressure show. You rely on structure, because structure protects you. The tea house rules exist for a reason. They create boundaries where none would exist otherwise. Despite this, misunderstandings persist. Outsiders assume intimacy where there is none. They confuse warmth with availability, charm with consent. This misunderstanding follows geisha for generations. It is frustrating, but not surprising. From a distance, nuance disappears. Inside the world, clarity exists. Physical intimacy is not part of the job. Emotional connection is curated, not consumed. You offer presence, not possession. Anyone who cannot accept that does not belong in this space. Still, the emotional labor is real. You carry other people's moods, their stress, their pride, their insecurities. You absorb it calmly and release it quietly. This can be draining. Some nights, you feel hollow afterward, like you gave something away and are not sure what it was. This is why boundaries matter. A geisha who forgets them burns out. A geisha who maintains them lasts longer. This balance is not taught directly. You learn it through exhaustion, through watching others, through small mistakes. There is humor here too, if you allow yourself to see it. Like being treated as mysterious when your day involved scrubbing floors and memorizing dance steps, or being praised for elegance while silently counting how long until you can sit down, or being asked about your free time, which is a genuinely funny concept. You smile, you answer vaguely, you move on. As you gain experience, your confidence shifts. You stop feeling intimidated by important men, not because they are not powerful, but because you understand the room better than they do. You know the rules, you know the rhythms, you know how these evenings are meant to unfold. This knowledge is power of a quieter kind. You are still constrained, still expected to behave within tradition, but within those boundaries, you have agency. You choose how to respond, how much to give, how much to hold back. That choice matters. By now, your reputation is forming clearly. People associate your name with certain qualities: grace, wit, reliability. These words circulate quietly. They shape your future. Men come and go. Your reputation stays. Understanding this changes how you see everything. You stop focusing on individual interactions and start thinking long-term. Every evening becomes part of a larger pattern. Every decision echoes forward. This can feel heavy. It can also feel grounding. You realize that while you do not control the system, you control how you move within it. That control is subtle, but it is real. And in a world built on restraint, subtle power is often the strongest kind. You are not owned by these men. You are not defined by them. You work with them, within rules that existed long before any of you arrived. And as long as you remember that, you remain standing, gracefully, quietly, on your own terms, as much as this world allows. Life in the Hanamachi is not just about guests, performances, or appearances. it is also about the other women who live and work beside you. This is a world built on observation, subtlety, and quiet competition, and nowhere is that more visible than in the relationships among geisha and maiko. You learn quickly that rivalry exists everywhere, not explosive, not dramatic, but persistent. Like a shadow you cannot ignore. Everyone is competing for attention, for praise, for the favor of the Okaisan, for invitations to events, and yes, sometimes for the notice of the more influential guests. It is not malicious by default. It is just inevitable. Your first days as a maiko teach you humility. You watch older girls perform flawlessly, gliding through rooms with a confidence you have not yet earned. Their every gesture draws the eye. Their smiles seem effortless. Your mistakes feel enormous by comparison, even though most people barely notice them. You notice because you are learning to see everything. Gossip exists, but it is careful. Open conflict is forbidden. No one raises voices. No one draws attention to another's mistake publicly. Instead, rivalry lives in glances, in the tone of a question, in subtle corrections disguised as advice, a slight hesitation in a bow, a comment about how a kimono should sit, a whispered story that seems innocent but leaves others questioning their own decisions. You learn that silence is a tool. Saying too much can expose weakness. Saying nothing can protect you. Listening carefully can reveal intentions without confrontation. Sometimes, simply observing allows you to avoid traps that could cost your reputation. There are moments of tension that feel enormous. A guest laughs a little too long at another maiko's story. A compliment is given to the wrong person. A small mistake is rewarded elsewhere. You feel the pull of envy, but you also learn restraint. Reacting openly would be disastrous. You bite your tongue, nod politely, and continue. Friends exist, of course. Quiet alliances form, usually based on shared experience or a mutual understanding of survival in this delicate ecosystem. But even friendships are measured. Trust is limited, because everyone understands that the system favors performance over personality. Disappointment can come from anywhere, and you must be prepared. This constant observation shapes your behavior. You move more deliberately. You speak more carefully. You smile when appropriate, but not too much. You learn to protect your energy while still participating fully. You begin to see that patience is as important as talent. Those who can endure without complaint, without revealing insecurity, are the ones who last. Competition is instructive. You study others' successes and failures to understand what is expected. You notice how senior geisha manage attention. You observe how minor errors are corrected discreetly. You internalize the lessons without being asked. Rivalry teaches you more about the craft than any formal lesson ever could. There is humor here too, though it is often private. Perhaps you and another maiko share a small, quiet joke about the absurdity of your early mistakes, or the exaggerated seriousness of a minor correction. These tiny moments of levity are precious. They are reminders that life in the Hanamichi is not unrelentingly grim. It is precise, demanding, and sometimes exhausting, but it is also alive. By the time you have spent a season or several learning the rhythm of jealousy and silence, you understand its function. Rivalry is a mirror. It reflects your strengths and weaknesses, often more clearly than any teacher's correction. It teaches vigilance, humility, and self-control. Ultimately, the lesson of this chapter is subtle. Your career is not only built on skill, charm, and endurance, it is also built on awareness. The world of geisha rewards those who can navigate both performance and social nuance, who can maintain grace under pressure, who can remain composed while being watched, evaluated, and occasionally envied. Jealousy is inevitable. Rivalry is constant. Silence is mandatory. Learning to live with all three to use them to sharpen your own presence is part of what transforms a girl into a maiko. It is not easy, it is not fair, but it is essential. By the end of this stage, you carry a quiet knowledge. In this world, power does not always announce itself. Influence is subtle. Survival depends on mastering what is unseen: the glances, the whispers, the unspoken rules. And once you master them, you move closer to becoming a full geisha, a woman who navigates not only art, but also the delicate currents of human behavior. With poise, awareness, and quiet strategy, you begin to understand that the art of being a geisha is not just the art you perform, it is the art of being seen, judged, and yet remaining untouchable. And that realization changes everything. At last, the moment comes when you are no longer an apprentice, no longer a maiko. You have crossed the threshold into adulthood, into mastery, into full geisha status. This transition is called erike, literally turning the collar. The red collar of youth is replaced by a white one, signaling refinement, composure, and professional maturity. The ceremony itself is quiet, not flashy, not public in the way outsiders imagine. There are no grand parades. The okasan oversees every step, ensuring your posture, your kimono, your hair, and even your expressions are correct. Every detail matters, because the ceremony is symbolic. It shows that you are ready to carry not just art, but responsibility. The first thing you notice is subtlety. The colors of your kimono change. Gone are the long, bright sleeves that announce youth. Now, you wear shorter sleeves, subdued tones, layered thoughtfully. The hair ornaments are smaller, more refined. The white makeup remains, but your lips are painted with less red, less emphasis. Your image now communicates mastery rather than novelty. Becoming a geisha does not mean the work is easier. Far from it. The expectations intensify. You are now fully responsible for hosting. You lead conversations in tea houses. You perform dances and songs for experienced guests. You are expected to correct younger maiko when necessary. Mistakes are less forgivable because you are the standard now. You also realize that protection has diminished. As a maiko, youth excused missteps. People assumed you were learning. Now, there is less leeway. Your elegance must be consistent, visible, and subtle. You are a reference point. Everyone compares others to you. Every gesture matters. Every word carries weight. The emotional labor does not decrease. In fact, it grows. Guests rely on your composure to set the tone of the evening. They expect charm without fatigue, grace without struggle. They judge subtle shifts in posture, small hesitations in speech, the placement of your hands on a cup. You learn to be precise even when tired, to smile even when exhausted, to listen even when your mind wants to wander. You also notice how relationships shift. Younger maiko look to you for guidance, sometimes silently, sometimes openly. They gauge your responses to mistakes. They watch how you navigate guests, noting which tactics are effective and which lead to missteps. Their observation reminds you constantly that you are no longer just yourself. You are a symbol. Jealousy among peers does not disappear. It changes shape. Other full geisha now watch you carefully. They compare skill, grace, and social acumen. But now, rivalry often becomes mutual respect. You learn to navigate subtle tension without letting it disrupt your composure. You have the experience to do so. You know when to intervene, when to remain silent, when to redirect attention. Your public life is balanced by private discipline. You maintain your hair, makeup, and kimono carefully. You continue lessons, even when you are confident in your skill. This is not vanity, it is maintenance. You understand that your image is a living tool, and neglect can undo years of work. Every layer, every stroke, every fold communicates expertise. Performance evolves too. Dance steps, once awkward, now flow naturally. Songs are sung with confidence, inflection, and understanding. Tea ceremonies become displays of effortless control. Guests sense the difference. The room relaxes when you enter because your presence conveys stability and skill, yet the work remains demanding. Your body aches, especially feet and back, and yet you carry yourself with precision. Social situations require constant vigilance. Your mind must anticipate needs before they are expressed. You carry emotional energy for others while keeping your own reserves in check. There is no pause button. There is only presence. This stage is where subtle humor helps you survive. A misstep in a dance may make you inwardly groan, but outwardly you continue with grace, often with a tiny private smirk at your own expense. Guests may compliment your composure, unaware that you internally counted every step. A fellow geisha may roll her eyes slightly behind your back, but later you laugh quietly together. Humor becomes a private shield, a way to endure relentless expectations. By now, you recognize the duality of your existence. You are both an individual and a living art form. Your movements, your appearance, your words all are curated for others, yet shaped by your discipline. You have learned to inhabit this duality without losing yourself completely. You move through the world like a carefully balanced equation, charm plus skill plus discretion, all under the weight of observation. The first weeks after Erike feel strange. Some evenings, you miss the bright colors and playful mistakes of your youth. Some nights, you feel the exhaustion more acutely because you are responsible for everything that happens around you. Yet, there is also pride, quiet pride, the kind that is not announced but felt in the alignment of your posture, the fluidity of your steps, the control of your voice. You are no longer emerging. you are present. Being a full geisha teaches you patience differently. Years of observation, endurance, and small victories culminate in the ability to see the long view. You understand that reputation is built slowly and preserved carefully, that each interaction matters, but not every detail requires anxiety. That composure and consistency outweigh flashiness and spontaneity. At this stage, you are rarely recognized for the effort that led you here. Everyone sees the result, the smooth movements, the elegant posture, the calm presence. Few see the countless hours of practice, the aches, the adjustments, the mistakes. But that is intentional. The art is meant to appear effortless. Effort is private. Success is public. You also notice something else. Being fully realized in your role grants a kind of freedom within the constraints. You have learned the system. You can predict its movements. You can guide younger Mako. You can anticipate guests. Within tradition, there is subtle agency. You navigate the space with quiet authority. By the end of this chapter of your life, you are no longer just a girl who trained. You are a woman who carries the weight of art, expectation, and history. You are both visible and untouchable. You are a master of presence. And in that mastery, you glimpse the full power of what it means to be a geisha, not just to entertain, not just to perform, but to embody a disciplined beauty that moves seamlessly through the world, influencing, soothing, and captivating, all without ever losing control of yourself. Once you become a full geisha, your life begins to settle into rhythms you had only glimpsed as a Mako. The lessons, the ceremonies, the meticulous attention to dress and posture, they become habits, ingrained so deeply that they shape your very body. You wake, move, speak, and perform in ways that feel natural, but they are the result of years of careful discipline. This stage of life is less about learning and more about living in the art you have become. Your calendar is dictated by the seasons. Each season carries its own expectations, celebrations, and artistic focus. Spring brings cherry blossom festivals. Your kimono blooms in pale pinks and soft greens, a reflection of nature's renewal. Dance and music are tailored to honor fleeting beauty. You perform pieces celebrating awakening, delicate beginnings, subtle joy. Even in the act of moving, your steps mimic petals drifting in the wind. Your guests, many of them wealthy patrons and loyal admirers, are reminded of life's transient beauty. Summer is hotter, heavier, and more demanding. The air is humid. Your layers of kimono cling. Your white makeup cracks in the relentless heat. Still, the work does not pause. Summer festivals require stamina, endurance, and precision. Special dances and songs mark seasonal events, each step a performance of both skill and grace. Nights are long. Guests linger over tea and sake, and your presence must remain constant, attentive, poised, and invisible in its perfection. Humor becomes a survival tool. Perhaps a guest's hat tilts awkwardly, or an amused child peeks from behind a screen, and a suppressed smile keeps you human without disrupting your composure. Autumn follows, bringing cooler evenings and a shift in mood. The colors of your kimono reflect the changing leaves, deep reds, rich golds, muted browns. Your hair ornaments, to adjust. You wear chrysanthemums instead of cherry blossoms. Dances now are slower, more deliberate, reflecting the mellowing light and the gathering wisdom of age. Guests sense the subtlety, the awareness that the performance is not just about outward beauty, but about understanding the world around you. Autumn is a time of reflection, of noticing the small details in both nature and people. You begin to see connections you had missed in the rush of youth. Winter is harsh and quiet. The streets of the Hanamichi are colder. Lantern light flickers against the snow, creating a fragile, magical atmosphere. Your kimono layers are heavier, designed to maintain warmth while preserving form. Movement is more constrained. Every step must be deliberate. Slipping or misjudging posture would break the illusion of elegance. Guests gather around hearths, sipping warm tea, appreciating not only your skills, but the subtle comfort your presence brings. Your endurance is tested now more than ever, as the long nights and cold air demand resilience. Yet, there is satisfaction in maintaining beauty under such conditions, in proving that grace can persist even when circumstances are uncomfortable. As the seasons cycle, you begin to notice another rhythm, one less visible, but more impactful. The passage of time within your own body. Youthful flexibility softens, muscles tighten. Feet ache from years of wooden sandals and long hours on tatami. Small injuries take longer to heal. Fatigue is not just temporary, it becomes a persistent companion. You learn to adjust movements, to shift weight subtly, to preserve energy without compromising elegance. The art of endurance becomes almost more important than skill itself. Despite these physical challenges, your reputation grows. Regular patrons notice your consistency. They comment on your composure, your understanding, the way you seem to anticipate needs before they are voiced. You are no longer simply a performer, you are a stabilizing presence. Guests return not just for the dances or music, but for the reassurance that comes from someone who has mastered the art of presence, who remains graceful and attentive no matter the circumstances. Social dynamics continue to shape your days. Rivalries, subtle as ever, persist even among full geisha. Younger Mako still watch you, learning from your successes and missteps. Older peers assess your choices, noting where you exercise wisdom and where you might falter. Jealousy remains quiet, but it exists. You must navigate it with diplomacy, humor, and discretion. A poorly timed smile, a slight misstep in conversation, or a small lapse in etiquette can ripple through the community in unexpected ways. Your awareness of this tension becomes a skill, a sort of internal compass that guides how you move and act in every room. Then there are the moments of unpredictability, the late-night guests who linger, the sudden changes in schedule, the unexpected festival events. You handle these seamlessly, adapting without letting strain show. Over the years, you develop a sixth sense for timing and atmosphere. You know when to speak, when to remain silent, when to guide conversation, when to observe. This intuition is not innate. It is honed through years of repetition, error, and careful observation. Longevity in this life requires more than physical endurance. Emotional resilience is crucial. Nights are long, social demands unrelenting. Your energy must be carefully rationed. Private moments of humor, small personal rituals, brief connections with fellow Geishas, they become essential to maintaining balance. You learn to find relief without breaking the facade of perfection, to carry exhaustion lightly, to conceal frustration while remaining alert and responsive. Some years are gentler. Festivals run smoothly. Guests are pleasant. The community is cooperative. Other years bring challenges: illness, injuries, sudden departures, or difficult patrons. You learn to manage these disruptions quietly, maintaining equilibrium while resolving problems subtly. The ability to adapt without disturbing the rhythm of your surroundings is a hallmark of mastery. Aging brings new awareness, while youth was a shield, granting forgiveness for mistakes and offering charm as a buffer. Experience now becomes your advantage. Guests respect your wisdom. Mako look to you for guidance. Even rivals acknowledge your steadiness. The work does not become easier, but it becomes more profound. You are no longer observed merely for novelty or beauty. You are observed for presence, for authority, for the subtle power of a woman who has endured, refined, and mastered the arts. At this stage, you also begin to reflect on legacy. Younger women, newer Mako, watch your movements and mimic them. Your choices, your timing, your attention to detail, they influence not just the immediate guests, but the ongoing culture of the Hanamachi. You are part of a lineage, a living bridge between tradition and the present. Every gesture carries meaning beyond the immediate room, extending into the future of your profession. Yet, even with mastery, vulnerability persists. You are constantly aware of the fragility of this life. A poorly timed word, a lapse in grace, a shift in the cultural or economic climate, any of these could alter your standing. Survival in this profession is as much about social intelligence as skill or beauty. You learn to anticipate change, to adjust subtly, and to carry yourself with resilience that is almost invisible to outsiders. Amid these challenges, moments of joy emerge. A perfectly executed dance, a guest's genuine smile, a private joke shared with another geisha after a long evening. The feeling that, despite all constraints, you have achieved something rare, the ability to create calm, beauty, and order in a world that often lacks it. These small victories are deeply satisfying, even if they are fleeting. The seasons, the cycles, the years, they shape not just your movements and skills, but your understanding of life itself. Patience, endurance, adaptability, and grace become second nature. You learn that success is measured not in applause or praise, but in consistency, in the ability to remain composed, attentive, and effective, night after night, season after season. By the end of your full geisha life, you have internalized these rhythms. Your body carries lessons from every festival, every performance, every conversation. Your mind senses the subtle energies in a room before they are expressed. Your presence, once a product of careful training, now feels effortless, though effort has not disappeared, has merely become invisible. In this way, being a geisha is not just an occupation. It is a life lived in harmony with discipline, observation, and art. The seasons are teachers, the years are proof of endurance, and the community is both challenge and support. The work is exhausting, demanding, and often invisible, yet it leaves an indelible mark on the guests who feel peace in your presence, on the younger women who watch and learn, and on the art itself, preserved through your care and mastery. You are both ephemeral and enduring, like the cherry blossoms of spring that signal beginnings, and the autumn leaves that remind everyone of passing time. Beauty is not simply performed, it is sustained, maintained, and lived. And as the seasons turn, you understand that your life, like the year itself, is a delicate balance of endurance, skill, and grace, each moment rehearsed, refined, and ultimately, profoundly human. Even the most disciplined and graceful life is not immune to the tides of history. As a geisha, you live within a world defined by ritual, art, and tradition, but the outside world is never static. Political upheaval, economic change, and war all ripple into the hanamachi, testing not only skill and composure, but also survival itself. The first disruptions come quietly. Economic shifts, new technology, changing tastes among patrons. These things are subtle at first. You notice fewer invitations to tea houses, or shifts in the kinds of performances requested. Guests are distracted by other amusements, or they move away entirely. The streets of Gyan feel different, quieter in the afternoons, less certain in the evenings. A small unease creeps in. The rhythms you have relied on your whole life are not as predictable as they once were. Then war arrives, and nothing remains subtle. During World War II, many hanamachi are affected. Air raids and blackouts force tea houses to close early. Travel restrictions make some guests unavailable. Materials for kimono, hair ornaments, and even makeup become scarce. Something as simple as the white face paint, once abundant, now feels like a luxury. You improvise. You adapt. A geisha's ability to maintain dignity and composure under strain is tested as never before. The physical challenges are immediate. Long nights become even longer when you must travel farther for fewer performances. Footsteps echo differently in dimly lit streets. The smell of smoke from distant fires mixes with the scent of incense in tea houses. You feel tension in every movement, in every bow, in every conversation. Fatigue is compounded by anxiety, uncertainty, and the constant awareness that the world beyond the hanamachi is changing rapidly, sometimes violently. Social dynamics shift too. Patrons who once held influence may leave the city or the country. The hierarchy among geisha and meiko is disrupted as people are relocated, injured, or forced to stop working. Younger meiko may never complete their training. Full geisha must step into unexpected roles: mentors, organizers, intermediaries, while still maintaining their own artistic obligations. The balance of attention, reputation, and influence becomes a delicate, sometimes perilous, dance. Amid these challenges, the definition of survival changes. You no longer simply aim to perfect dance steps or refine conversation. Survival means adaptability. It means maintaining appearances when resources are scarce. It means protecting younger apprentices and guiding them through unfamiliar dangers. It means finding ways to keep art alive when the world seems intent on making it impossible. Every gesture, every smile, every bow becomes an act of defiance, proof that culture endures even under pressure. Western influence also arrives, bringing both fascination and misunderstanding. Occupation forces, foreign observers, and travelers view geisha through a lens distorted by fantasy and curiosity. They confuse grace for seduction, discipline for frivolity, and endurance for performance. Questions are asked, sometimes inappropriate, often naive, and you answer them with patience, with the same calm composure that has been drilled into you since your earliest lessons. You learn quickly that this external scrutiny is double-edged. It brings recognition, sometimes even financial support, but it also misrepresents your life and art. Reputation becomes precarious. A single misstep in the public eye, a photograph, or a misunderstanding can ripple through social networks. You develop a new layer of awareness, not just managing the room in front of you, but also the perceptions of outsiders who will never fully understand the rules by which you live. Economic decline changes the role of patrons as well. Financial support that once funded elaborate kimono, ornaments, and training becomes scarce. The dana system, in which a patron provides stability, begins to erode. Some geisha are forced to work more nights, take on less familiar guests, or perform for reduced pay. The physical and emotional demands increase as financial security wanes. You develop strategies to navigate this. You negotiate subtly, conserve resources, and prioritize appearances, ensuring that even in scarcity, you maintain the illusion of perfection. War and modernity also challenge the cultural fabric of the Hanamachi itself. Traditional festivals are curtailed or cancelled. Streets once filled with lanterns and song feel emptier. Seasonal markers, the subtle signals embedded in kimono color, hair ornaments, and dance lose some of their resonance. Guests may no longer recognize the significance of subtle shifts in performance or appearance. You work harder to preserve meaning, to teach younger Mako, to keep rituals alive in a world that no longer prioritizes them. Despite all this, moments of beauty persist. A single evening when everything aligns, a candlelit room, attentive guests, flawless dance, harmonious conversation, reminds you why this life matters. Those fleeting moments are more precious during periods of scarcity and chaos. They become proof that art endures, that grace is not contingent on comfort, and that discipline is not dependent on abundance. The emotional strain is considerable. You witness peers leave the profession, either by necessity or by choice. You see the toll that scarcity, disruption, and aging take on the body and spirit. You carry not only your own burdens, but the weight of tradition, the responsibility to younger women, and the awareness that the culture you serve is fragile. It is a constant test of resilience, patience, and composure. Amid these pressures, humor becomes a quiet, private refuge. Perhaps it is in the absurdity of improvising a kimono from limited materials, or the irony of being asked by a foreign observer to teach seduction while you are cold, tired, and managing a blackout. These moments are small, hidden, but they remind you of humanity. They are proof that even under immense strain, laughter quiet, restrained, and private can survive. By the end of this period, you understand that survival in the Hanamachi is about more than skill or beauty. It is about adaptability, emotional resilience, and the ability to maintain tradition in a rapidly changing world. You see that the art is fragile yet enduring. Like a candle flame in the wind, it requires protection, vigilance, and careful tending. One wrong move can extinguish it, but careful attention keeps it burning, even if flickering. The decline of traditional patronage forces reflection. Some geisha choose retirement, others adapt, becoming teachers or taking part in emerging cultural performances for modern audiences. Those who remain do so with awareness that their life is now both preservation and performance. Every movement, every choice, every gesture carries dual weight, artistic and historical. Through it all, the streets of Gion continue to exist. Lanterns flicker, tea houses open their doors, and shamisen music drifts into the evening air. Yet the world outside the Hanamachi moves faster, louder, less patient with subtlety. You carry the traditions carefully, like a fragile heirloom, knowing that what you preserve matters far beyond your immediate life. In these years, you realize a profound truth. Being a geisha is not simply about creating beauty for its own sake. It is about endurance, about navigating social, cultural, and historical pressures while maintaining grace. It is about continuity in the face of disruption, and about creating space for others to witness artistry, even when the world seems intent on forgetting it. War, modernity, and decline test every aspect of your life. They test stamina, patience, and emotional fortitude. But they also reveal the strength embedded in your discipline, the subtle power of observation, and the quiet resilience that has been cultivated through years of training. You discover that mastery is not just about elegance, but about survival, holding beauty, dignity, and tradition steady even when everything around you is in flux. And so, as the world changes outside, you remain a living bridge between history and the present, between art and life, between the ephemeral beauty of the moment and the enduring structure of tradition. You are a geisha not simply because you dance, or sing, or perform, but because you endure, you adapt, and you maintain grace, even when the world itself seems uncertain. In the end, you understand something essential. Beauty is not fragile. It is resilient. It is alive in the careful, deliberate choices you make every day, in the quiet courage required to persist, and in the unwavering commitment to art and discipline, no matter what storms arise outside the Hanamachi walls. Through war, economic hardship, and cultural misunderstanding, the geisha survives not by resisting the world, but by moving gracefully within it. And in that survival, art and tradition are preserved, allowing the next generation to step forward, learn, and continue the delicate, demanding, and profoundly human practice that has endured for centuries. Even in the most beautiful kimono, even under the soft flicker of lantern light, even while performing with flawless grace, the life of a geisha carries a quiet, persistent loneliness. From the outside, it appears glamorous long nights in elegant tea houses, attention from influential men, applause for flawless performances, but the truth is subtler, quieter, and sometimes heavier than anyone could imagine. Loneliness begins early. When you first leave your family to enter the okia, you lose not only a home, but the ordinary, informal connections of childhood, laughter with siblings, casual conversations, the ability to cry without judgment. Those early losses are disguised as training, discipline, and tradition, but they leave a mark that persists for decades. You learn to carry emotions privately, to suppress impulse, to respond politely even when your heart is heavy. Emotional control becomes a skill as essential as dance or shamisen. As a Mako, you are always watched. Every step, every bow, every gesture is scrutinized. You learn to internalize observation without letting it affect your outward composure. This develops into a kind of emotional solitude, a space where your true feelings are known only to yourself. Even friends among other Mako may not perceive your inner life. Everyone is polite, everyone smiles, everyone performs alongside you, but the depth of personal experience remains largely unshared. When you become a full geisha, this loneliness evolves but does not disappear. The bright novelty of youth fades, leaving fewer excuses for mistakes. Expectations rise. You are now a standard bearer for tradition, a reference point for younger Mako, and a figure of respect for guests. Being admired or even desired does not alleviate the emptiness that comes from having few avenues for genuine intimacy. Most evenings are filled with conversation, music, and performance, yet the connections are curated, controlled, transactional in nature. Guests admire, but they do not know you. Colleagues observe, but they do not share the full weight of your experiences. Romantic relationships are complex, constrained, and often impossible. Social rules, tradition, and professional obligations create barriers. Marrying a patron is discouraged. Maintaining personal love affairs is risky, not only for reputation but for livelihood. Children are generally not part of a geisha's life until retirement, if at all. These limitations, necessary to maintain discipline and professional standing, contribute to a deep, quiet solitude. Emotional needs must be contained, managed, and expressed, if at all, only in private. Even friendships within the Hanamachi carry a cautious tone. Alliances are formed, but trust is measured and provisional. Jealousy, rivalry, and hierarchy influence interactions. So closeness is often limited to small gestures and shared jokes, carefully guarded against misinterpretation. True vulnerability is rare. You may find someone to confide in quietly, but such bonds must be maintained with care, or they can fracture under the weight of competition or gossip. This isolation is paradoxical. You are constantly surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. Every conversation is a performance, every gesture curated, every smile intentional. You practice listening deeply, reading moods, anticipating reactions, but rarely allow yourself to be truly seen. Guests feel comforted, entertained, or charmed, but they cannot penetrate the world you carry inside. The okia, your home, is filled with others. Yet the rules of hierarchy and duty create a quiet distance. Even those closest to you share the same burdens, meaning mutual understanding is often limited. Time intensifies this solitude. As you age, the structure that once guided your life becomes familiar, almost automatic. Seasons repeat, festivals arrive, tea houses open and close, and you perform with impeccable grace. Yet each repetition can deepen awareness of the private void that exists behind public perfection. You notice younger Mako with their playful energy, the effortless laughter of new apprentices, and the casual freedom of guests who do not understand the discipline required to sustain even a single evening of beauty. You envy none openly, but you feel a pang of longing for what you lost long ago, the ability to be unobserved, unjudged, and free to simply exist. The physical demands of the profession amplify the emotional solitude. Long hours on tatami, dancing in heavy kimono, standing in silence while listening intently. Your body becomes a vessel of discipline. Pain is private, discomfort suppressed. You may feel aching feet, stiff joints, or exhaustion, But outwardly, grace must remain uninterrupted. Guests must never see the effort behind perfection. The hidden labor of your body mirrors the hidden depths of your emotions, both unseen, both essential, both isolating. Yet, the life of a geisha is not devoid of coping mechanisms. Humor, subtle and private, serves as a vital relief. A small smirk at a guest's overly confident storytelling, a shared inside joke with a fellow geisha during a quiet moment, a playful thought while executing a difficult dance. These glimpses of lightness preserve sanity. They are often fleeting, tucked away between obligations, but they remind you that humanity persists despite the constraints. Solitude also brings reflection. You contemplate your place in history, your role in preserving culture, and the meaning of the sacrifices you have made. The repetition of art, the maintenance of beauty, and the careful attention to traditional seem more significant when viewed against the quiet loneliness that underpins them. You recognize that your presence creates a rare kind of magic. Guests feel comfort, amusement, and aesthetic pleasure, unaware of the private discipline and solitude that sustain it. This awareness fosters pride, even amidst loneliness. The years continue, and the loneliness deepens as friends retire or leave, patrons change, and younger Mako advance into roles you once held. The streets of Gion evolve, society modernizes, and cultural shifts alter traditions. You carry the history, knowledge, and skill of generations, yet many around you cannot fully appreciate what it took to arrive here. The recognition you receive is partial, often superficial. True understanding exists only in the quiet reflection of your own mind, where memories, discipline, and artistry converge. Still, there is resilience in solitude. You find strength in private rituals, carefully folding kimono, arranging hair ornaments, rehearsing dance steps, or quietly observing nature during brief walks between performances. These moments, though brief, provide grounding. They remind you that even when unseen, your efforts matter. You maintain presence, not for external validation, but because mastery and tradition demand it. Your life becomes a balance of isolation and impact, of hidden labor and visible elegance. The loneliness behind the art is also transformative. It teaches patience, self-reliance, and introspection. You become attuned to subtle cues, understanding both human behavior and the natural rhythms of life. You learn to sustain beauty and composure without constant affirmation, to find satisfaction in discipline itself, and to derive meaning from quiet observation and careful execution. The solitude shapes character, fortifying endurance, awareness, and subtle authority. Even when the world outside changes, even when war, modernization, or economic shifts alter circumstances, this private resilience sustains you. Guests may come and go, festivals may fade or evolve, and younger generations may misinterpret or misrepresent the profession, but the internal strength forged through solitude remains intact. It allows you to continue embodying tradition, preserving art, and maintaining the delicate equilibrium required of a geisha. By the end of this chapter of life, you realize that the cost of elegance is isolation. Yet this solitude is not weakness, it is a necessary component of mastery. To carry beauty, grace, and tradition in a world that does not always notice requires privacy of emotion, self-discipline, and careful management of presence. Loneliness is both burden and teacher, shaping the very essence of who you have become. Ultimately, the life of a geisha is a paradox, surrounded yet alone, performing yet private, visible yet hidden. The loneliness behind the art is inseparable from the art itself. Without it, there would be no discipline, no precision, no enduring grace. It is a quiet companion, a source of strength, and a reminder that mastery is forged not only in public moments of brilliance, but also in the private, unseen spaces of the heart and mind. And it is here, in this silent, persistent solitude, that the geisha learns the most profound lesson of all, that presence, elegance, and art are not just created, they are sustained, silently, patiently, and with unwavering resolve, long after applause fades and lanterns are extinguished. Every life has its seasons, and for a geisha, the final chapter is often one of transition. After decades of disciplined artistry, constant observation, and the emotional labor of presence, the time comes to ask, what happens when the music stops? How do you step away from a life that has defined you in every gesture, every smile, every careful movement? Retirement is not a single moment, it is a process, a negotiation between duty, desire, and the reality of aging. The first step toward leaving the ukiya, the house that has both nurtured and owned U.S. financial. Many geishas spend years paying off debts to the okazen for lessons, kimono, hair ornaments, and living expenses. These debts are not punitive, but they are strict, and they ensure that a geisha remains connected to the house for the duration of her career. Buying freedom is rarely easy. It requires careful planning, thrift, and sometimes the discreet support of loyal patrons who recognize both the skill and the years of service the geisha has contributed. Once the debts are cleared, choices emerge. Some women continue in the profession in a new role, as instructors, mentors, or okazen themselves. These roles are familiar, yet fundamentally different. Instead of performing nightly, you guide, correct, and observe others. You pass on knowledge, habits, and subtleties that cannot be captured in books or formal lessons. You shape the next generation, ensuring that the traditions you have carried for decades do not vanish, even as your own public presence diminishes. There is satisfaction in this work, quiet, steady, and lasting, but it carries its own emotional weight. You must balance authority with empathy, discipline with patience, and pride with humility. You are no longer the apprentice, but you remain a guardian of both art and culture. For others, retirement means leaving quietly, without fanfare. The decision to vanish from the hanamichi is not uncommon. Some geisha marry, some seek new careers, and some simply choose solitude after a life spent performing for others. Leaving can be bittersweet. The streets of Gion, the smell of incense in tea houses, the flicker of lanterns on stone, all of it has been part of your body, your rhythm, your identity. To walk away is to carry memories in silence, without the structured community that once framed every day. Yet the departure is also liberation. You move on your own terms, reclaiming freedom that was earned only through decades of disciplined labor. Even in retirement, the lessons of a geisha remain. You carry posture, grace, and awareness into every aspect of life. Conversations, gestures, and presence retain the subtlety developed over years. People notice even those who do not recognize your past, because the habits of decades cannot simply be discarded. The elegance you cultivated becomes a quiet signature, visible in unexpected ways, a measured bow, a careful tone, or the ability to command attention without force. Loneliness, too, evolves. Once surrounded by fellow geisha and constant observation, you now navigate solitude differently. The absence of structured daily interaction with apprentices, patrons, and colleagues creates space for reflection. You relive memories of seasons past, of festivals, of late nights and early mornings, of small triumphs and quiet failures. This retrospective solitude is different from the isolation of active life. It is contemplative rather than reactive, a time to integrate experience into identity rather than suppress emotion for survival. There is also the challenge of relevance. Society changes, and the world outside the hanamichi no longer functions by the same rules. Younger generations may misunderstand or misrepresent the geisha profession. Patrons have new forms of entertainment, and the cultural landscape evolves. To remain connected requires careful navigation. Some retired geisha engage in cultural preservation, participating in documentaries, exhibitions, or education programs. Others maintain influence quietly, advising younger Mako, or serving as respected voices within the community. Influence becomes less about performance and more about wisdom, guidance, and stewardship. The process of leaving is rarely abrupt. It often unfolds gradually, marked by intermittent performances, transitional roles, and slowly shifting responsibilities. The body itself signals change. Knees ache more, back stiffens, endurance diminishes. Guests may notice subtle shifts in movement or posture, though the elegance remains. You learn to work with these changes, adjusting subtly, maintaining presence while conserving energy. Retirement is not just a personal decision. It is a negotiation with the body, the community, and the legacy of your career. Financial independence, emotional adjustment, and social transition must all align. Some geisha manage this carefully over years, gradually reducing performance obligations, mentoring successors, and saving diligently. Others are forced to leave suddenly due to economic pressures, illness, or social upheaval. Both paths demand resilience, adaptation, and reflection. Freedom does not erase the discipline, nor does it remove the imprint of years of labor. Instead, it reframes life, offering a new stage in which skill and composure are applied differently. Even in retirement, the art continues. Private practice, teaching, and memory preserve technique, posture, and knowledge. You may sit alone, fingers tracing the strings of a shamisen, recalling dances performed decades earlier, refining movements quietly. The private continuation of art maintains identity, offers solace, and sustains connection to a tradition that shaped every aspect of your life. Performance may cease publicly, but mastery persists in thought, habit, and memory. The emotional landscape of retirement is complex. Freedom is tempered by nostalgia. You are no longer defined by the rigorous structure of the okia, but you also leave behind a world of shared purpose, rhythm, and artistry. Some feel relief, some grief, some a mix of both. The challenge is to integrate decades of intense, highly disciplined life into a world that no longer demands perfection. Adaptation becomes both practical and psychological. You discover new ways to live with yourself, without the constant gaze of patrons and peers, and to carry the dignity of experience into a quieter, more self-directed life. Humor and humility remain important. You learn to laugh at the absurdity of rigid expectations once required of you. Perhaps you chuckle at the weight of a layered kimono while navigating modern streets, or at the memory of a patroness' fussy demands, in contrast to the simplicity of current life. These reflections do not diminish the art, they humanize it. They offer balance, a bridge between the intensity of performance and the calm of private existence. Ultimately, retirement or reinvention is a negotiation with identity. You are no longer a young apprentice, a public performer, or a figure of constant observation. You are an elder, a custodian, a storyteller, and sometimes a quiet observer of your own past. The streets of Gion may continue to glow with lanterns, and Mako may pass by in bright sleeves and youthful energy, but your role has shifted. You have become a repository of history, skill, and discipline, a living bridge connecting past to present. Some retired geisha choose complete quiet. They walk among the streets invisibly, carrying the knowledge of decades within. Unrecognized by strangers, yet profoundly connected to tradition. Others take on instructive roles, shaping the art in ways no one outside the profession sees. Regardless of choice, the transition reflects the resilience, adaptability, and depth of a life fully lived in the service of beauty, skill, and tradition. The final lesson of this stage is subtle. Mastery is not defined by ongoing visibility, but by sustained integrity. Whether performing nightly, teaching apprentices, or moving quietly through modern streets, the discipline, awareness, and grace cultivated over a lifetime remain. Presence, after decades of effort, becomes effortless. The art persists, even without public recognition, carried in posture, gesture, memory, and quiet decision-making. In the end, retirement or reinvention is not an ending, but a transformation. It is the moment when the geisha moves from performing beauty for others to embodying it internally, preserving it privately, and passing it forward selectively. Life after performance requires as much wisdom, patience, and subtlety as life before. The difference is that now, the art belongs fully to you, curated through experience, memory, and quiet reflection. You leave the okia, you step back from the limelight, or you guide the next generation, and in each path, you carry the same discipline, composure, and elegance that defined your active years. The streets, the music, and the lanterns continue, but your role evolves. Freedom is tempered with responsibility, independence with reflection, and in that evolution, you see the profound truth. Being a geisha is never simply about public performance. It is about a lifetime of learning, enduring, and embodying a tradition with unwavering grace. The music may stop, but the rhythm of your life, shaped by decades of discipline and art, continues quietly, privately, and gracefully, proof that mastery and tradition are never truly lost, even when the public gaze moves on. There comes a moment in every geisha's life when the streets of Gyeongso, familiar, so alive with decades of footsteps, music, and ritual, feel different. They do not change, but you do. Lanterns still flicker against polished wood. The shamisen still hums faintly in the evening air, yet your perception has shifted. The streets are now both memory and present reality, a bridge between what was and what remains. Tonight, as you take your last walk through these lanes, you carry the weight of a lifetime in each step. Your kimono, carefully layered, sways gently with each movement. The fabric is no longer vibrant in youthful brightness, but it is rich with history. Each fold, each subtle pattern, speaks of years of learning, seasons of performance, and the quiet discipline that defined your life. Hair ornaments glint softly in lantern light, not as showpieces for admiration, but as markers of your journey, tokens of apprenticeships, ceremonies, and milestones etched into the culture of the Hanama. The streets are quieter now than in your early years. Some tea houses have closed, new establishments have opened, tourists wander with curious eyes, and the cadence of nightly performance has shifted. Yet the essence of the place, the rhythm of footsteps, the scent of incense, the distant laughter of patrons, you notice everything. The uneven stones under your sandals, the muted reflection of lantern light on wooden shutters, the gentle rustle of silk as a young Mako passes by, carefully balancing her layers, bright with the promise of youth. This last walk is both personal and public. You move with the composure and elegance that has been honed over decades, yet there is no audience tonight, no expectation beyond your own awareness. The lessons of years of poise, of patience, of subtle presence are your constant companions. You bow slightly to the few familiar faces who notice, nod quietly to a friend who has shared the journey, and move onward, silently absorbing the ambience you once helped to animate. Memory rises with each step. You recall your misadashi, the nervous trembling of your first public performance, the thrill and anxiety of learning the arts under the watchful eyes of your okazon. You remember the seasons of labor cherry blossoms, summer heat, autumn festivals, and the winter's hush. Each performance, each conversation, each carefully measured movement is a thread in the tapestry of your life, woven through repetition, discipline, and devotion. You see younger Mako practicing dances near tea house doors, their laughter echoing faintly against the wooden walls. You smile softly, privately. They do not yet understand the weight of this life, the quiet sacrifices hidden behind beauty, charm, and music. But you know they will, and perhaps, one day, they will feel your presence in subtle ways, in a gentle correction, in a shared glance of understanding, in the inherited memory of gestures performed 1,000 times before. The lanterns themselves seem to notice your passage. Their soft glow flickers against the darkness, illuminating not just the streets, but the countless invisible layers of time embedded in the town. The scent of incense rises from open windows, carrying faint notes of sandalwood, green tea, and candle smoke, the invisible soundtrack of a lifetime of performances. You inhale deeply, savoring the richness, knowing that the air itself has been a witness to your decades of work. Footsteps echo softly behind you, perhaps a guest or a fellow geisha walking home, perhaps merely your own steps reflected against the polished stones. Each sound is a reminder of impermanence. Streets that once felt endless now feel finite, bounded by memory, history, and personal reflection. You are aware that your life, like these streets, is a path measured not only by distance but by experience, choices, and endurance. You pause at a familiar corner, the site of countless evenings filled with anticipation, conversation, and subtle artistry. The memory of whispers, laughter, and careful instruction floats around you, as tangible as the lantern glow. You imagine yourself decades ago, a Mako stepping lightly, uncertain yet eager, the night stretching before you like a promise. Now, decades later, the promise has been fulfilled, refined, and quietly carried forward. The realization of time's passage is both melancholy and affirming. Youth fades, performance wanes, and responsibilities shift. But the essence, the discipline, grace, and quiet mastery remains. The streets have witnessed every triumph and mistake, every late-night lesson, every meticulously executed performance. They have absorbed your presence, even when others failed to notice the depth behind the visible elegance. Tonight, the streets witnessed your culmination, the embodiment of a life spent in service of art and tradition. You continue walking, allowing the rhythm of steps and the subtle sway of kimono to guide you. The world feels both intimate and expansive. The history of the Hanamachi flows through you, mingling with your memories, your skills, and your identity. Each gesture is deliberate, a slight bow to an unseen observer, a measured adjustment of hairpins, a soft exhale carrying years of tension, effort, and endurance. Even in silence, you perform not for applause, but for the integrity of your own presence. As you pass a quiet tea house, the faint sound of shamisen drifts through the open window. The notes are imperfect, yet beautiful, echoing with the same spirit that has shaped your life. You pause, listening, letting the music fold around you. It is both reminder and affirmation. Art persists, even when circumstances change, even when performers retire. The essence of the crafter, discipline, precision, and emotional resonance remains alive in those who carry it forward. The walk also brings reflection on those who are gone, Friends, mentors, patrons, and younger peers who have moved on. Their absence is felt as a quiet presence. You sense their influence in your movements, their guidance in your posture, their lessons embedded in every carefully executed gesture. Loneliness, once a companion of daily life, now carries the weight of memory, of gratitude, and of enduring connection across time and distance. Approaching the edge of the Hanamichi, you feel a final shift in perspective. The streets seem both smaller and more expansive than in your youth. You have traversed them countless times, yet tonight you carry the accumulated history, discipline, and artistry of decades. Every stone, every lantern, every wooden shutter is a silent witness, and though your role as active performer may conclude, your presence embodied in memory, skill, and quiet authority remains. The last step brings a sense of closure. You are both a participant and observer, a living archive of tradition, endurance, and beauty. The streets have not changed, but you have. And in that change, you understand the enduring truth of a geisha-esque life. It is not only about performance or public admiration, but about the careful cultivation of presence, grace, and mastery over a lifetime. Art, discipline, and identity persist quietly, even when the music fades and lanterns are extinguished. You take one final look, a slow, measured gaze across the familiar lanes. The world beyond waits, full of new experiences, challenges, and quiet reflections. But the Hanamichi, the streets, the music, and the memories remain etched into your very being. Every step, every lesson, every subtle gesture has been preserved, not just for the public, but within you. And with that awareness, you walk on, carrying the legacy, beauty, and discipline of a geisha into the next chapter of life, quietly, gracefully, and irrevocably. As we come to the end of this journey, take a moment to imagine the quiet strength, dedication, and artistry that shaped your life as a Japanese geisha, a life built on patience, beauty, and centuries of tradition. Behind the graceful movements and painted smiles was a world of discipline, sacrifice, and deep cultural meaning. If you enjoyed stepping into this hidden side of history, don't forget to like this video. It helps more people discover these calm/immersive stories. Subscribe to the channel for more relaxing history journeys, and comment below what surprised you most about a geisha-esque life, or what culture you'd like to explore next. And if you'd like to keep traveling through time, check out the videos on your screen now for more fascinating lives from the past. Until next time, stay curious, stay calm, and thank you for being part of this journey.